Hello and welcome to this week's reading vlog. I read a total of 7 books this week. So this week it's a bit different than usual. I'm literally just filming it all on the one day. I've just had such a hectic week. This was the first time I could film. They still be sort of reading goals and what I'm planning on doing with this channel going forward. So last year I did read over 400 books. I think 20% were DNFs, so around probably 320 books. And so this year I just really wanted to read less because now I'm reviewing them. If I was just reading books and that's it, I could read 1,000 books and it's fine. But when I'm reviewing them on like Goodreads, Storygraph, library thing, and I'm making videos, it's a lot. This is just a hobby of mine. And I'm finding that it's the video editing that is just taking up a lot of my time. It's not something I enjoy. I don't get into the zone while doing it. I'm very aware of the seconds that tick by. And because I have another channel where I film about tarot, crochet and cooking, yeah, it's just a lot. So by reading less books, it'll take less time to film and edit. And I think it's a bit more manageable for me. So I did set this year's reading goal to 150 books. I was just notified that I have already surpassed that. Going forward, I am really going to try and limit my reading to about 5 books a week, 20 books a month, and see how we go with that, just so it's a bit more manageable for me at the moment. Maybe in the future I'll be able to do more, but at the moment I'm gonna try that out and see how it goes. I'm also thinking maybe just filming a few days a week rather than whenever I finish a book. So I might just do 2 or 3 films a week instead of, possibly every day, because I tend to read normally around 10 books a week. So I was pretty much filming every day. Maybe less of that, maybe more just vlogging my life as well, bits and pieces of my life, because people seem to enjoy seeing glimpses into how I spend my days. Someone did ask for more like maybe fashion style advice and stuff. I am not fashionable, guys. Like, my style is very eclectic in that it might be grunge, goth, vamp, it might be preppy, it might be really feminine, girly, it might be like childlike. Today I'm rocking a Care Bears cloud jumper because I'm going out with my kids and I wanted to sort of tap into my child energy. So yeah, I don't really think I'm fashionable, but I'll just put a photo of like today's fit in there and tell you what it is I'm wearing for those who are interested. My nail polishes are always the brand Hanami, if anyone wanted to know that. So I'll put that in there. But yeah, thanks Annie for requesting it. But I'm just like, really? You want to know what I'm wearing? Okay, so I'm flattered. So yeah, so today I'm going out with my children to buy presents for their friend's birthday party. We're also going to go check out a vegetarian sushi train restaurant, possibly, if it's not booked out. I'm hoping it's not. So that might be fun. I might video that, but include it at the end of the vlog because it's going to be the end of the day thing. At the moment, let me now tell you about all the books that I've read this week. I'm also flipping the camera around so I can't look at myself. I find it very distracting if I can see myself, but I don't know if I'm even in frame or how this is going to go. So I'm doing a test run. So the first book I read was Wicked in Me, and I DNF'd this. I'm just going to read to you a passage from this book so you can get an idea of what the writing. This could be a bad idea, a really bad idea. Riding shotgun, Delilah tossed her a sideways glance. You said that when we ate at the Indian restaurant with the dodgy reviews last night. That turned out okay. No one got the shits. I don't know about that, Xavier piped up from the back seat, his nose wrinkling as he cast the sleeping female on his left a brief look. Annabelle's been farting past herself, and some of those farts sounded wet, said the elderly woman on his right, her face in her book. This is finally starting to get good. In other words, it was a sex scene. Hattie read erotic books like it was her job. The filthier, the better, in her opinion. Hats off to reading erotic books, I get you, Hattie. Filthier, the better, but just talking about wet farts and shitting yourselves, it was just, the writing was so bad. It was like a really bad Wattpad novel. So basically this was about a woman in this kind of coven of people, and she ends up getting cast out, and they think that being cast out sort of means to go back into the real world with no memories, but it turns out that casting out means that you get raped and killed. And I just hated it. I hated the writing. I thought it was, like I said, really pedestrian, crass, not great. I just didn't care for it. It was rude for the sake of being rude. And I just didn't want to continue reading. It didn't vibe with me. We didn't click. And life's too short to carry on with a bad date, pretty much. And then I read Heir of Uncertain Magic, which is the Whimbrel House 2. It's the series by Charlie and Holmberg. I enjoyed the first book. It's basically in this world where magic is fading. There are certain people that still have smidgens of magic. There's different classes and types of magic. And sometimes there are houses that are magical, and there's a department that takes care of these magical houses to sort of preserve them. And so in the first book, you get introduced to the guy and the magician, his magical house, the woman who comes and takes care of the house and the relationship they form. And it was quirky, it was sweet, it was interesting, it was a bit slow. This one though, the first one was slow, this one was glacial. It was just so tedious to try and get through. It was dull, there was stuff happening, but there was no urgency about it. There was no real feeling of danger or risk, even though there was. The romance between the two was too cold, too frigid for me. The woman didn't even want to hold his hand in public, and it's just, okay, you're grown, like they're grown adults, and it's not brand new, and it's too much. I don't like it. I don't like reading it. It's frustrating when someone is continually just blocking the relationship because they don't want people to think they're being inappropriate. So for me, this didn't really have any appeal in it whatsoever. The characters, like I still love the main dude. Anything else that I found charming about the first one, it wasn't enough to pull me through this one. I did read it till the end and it was so disappointing. So I've given it 2 stars. I should have DNF'd it, but because I enjoyed the first one, I persevered, and that was to my folly. The next book I read is The Witch Boy by Molly Knox Ostertag. This is a graphic novel for teens. I'll show you the pictures. So the art style, gorgeous, loved that. This had a lot to do with like body dysmorphia. I think that's the word, maybe gender as well. The main character is trans, so they're born into the body of a boy, and in this world, magic is gendered. So boys are shifters and women are witches. That is the only thing that's allowed. So Asta has no interest in shifting. They have been unable to shift, and they are just fascinated with the witch magic, and they keep spying and trying to cast the witch magic, and they are just condemned for it by their own parents, by everyone in the community, because it is wrong. You cannot do it or you will end up evil, like Asta's uncle, who tried to do witch magic and now is shifted into this beast. So in this book, there's these demons that are taking the children. And look, I don't know how I feel about the gender magic issue, because there's something that happens at the end where you find out that someone also was able sort of to do 2 types of magic. And if they had just come out and said, hey, it's okay, none of this would be an issue, but they made it so that it's evil to want to practice the other gender's magic. So that's what I had a lot of issue with. It was unnecessary crucifying of people when it didn't need to be crucifying of people, because it's clear by this other person that you can perform magic of the other gender without ill consequence. So yeah, that was the frustrating part for me. So I'm giving it 3 stars because that sort of issue really knocked it down a lot. It wasn't unnecessary, and the whole book, you're just feeling for Asta just constantly being demonized by their own family and friends for being drawn to one type of magic and not wanting to do the other for very real reasons. You know, they are fantastic at witchcraft, absolutely brilliant, natural. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this one. The next book I read was Devotion by Patti Smith, and I've given this 2 stars. Basically, you're just reading about a woman's travel diary. This is sort of like how she gets her inspiration and why she writes. And okay, that's cool, but it's a bit boring. I went here today and this is what I ate, and I saw this and that was cool, and this plate of ham inspired me to write about a pond. So I get it, but then there's also a short story that she writes in there that came from the inspiration that she had on this trip. I hated the short story. Basically, it's about a 16-year-old skater who ends up in a sexual relationship with an older man based on a power dynamic. She's pretty much homeless and needs the money to be taken care of, and it's just icky and gross. Patti Smith does like sort of, there's a bit of like humble bragging in there. She's staying at like Albert Camus' family home with his family, and it just didn't sit well with me. I'm just like, okay, cool that you, because of your name, you get to have these sort of experiences that the common man doesn't get to have. So congratulations on being part of the elite. So yeah, I didn't love it. It didn't really do anything for me whatsoever. they're a good writer, I guess, but this was just not for me. And then I read Games for Dead Girls by Jen Williams. I love Jen Williams' fantasy books. I think it's The Ninth Reign. I can't remember what it's called, but it was great. It was weird. It was different. And that's why I picked this up. So this is more of a thriller, and you are in the POV of a few different people over a course of time. Some of the POVs just don't like them. One of them being like a killer's, and there's a girl that was put away in jail for many, many years, along with someone else, and they're both been released, and the other chick is writing a book about the experience, obviously from her point of view. And this woman is trying to combat that whilst also searching for some missing girls that have gone from the area. This was just weird. It was weird. The twisty bits weren't that clever. Like, there was nothing that was really smart about it or particularly shocking. So it was just so mediocre. There was some atmospheric vibes, I guess, with it being by the beach. I didn't enjoy it. I read through to the end just to read through to the end. I think with thrillers, you just have to read through the end so you can just find out, okay, I can just wrap everything up and tell me what happened. But this was just, yeah, once again, a bit boring. I didn't like the villains in this at all. I felt frustrated by the course of events and annoyed at some of the characters. Pretty much their naivety and stupidity when they shouldn't be so naive and stupid. So I didn't love it at all. There wasn't really a magical element. There was meant to be a magical element, but there's not really. So I'll just let you know in case you're thinking it's going to be magical realism. It's not. And then I listened to Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I did mention in previous vlogs that I wasn't going to read any more of her books, and I'm standing by that. I listened to this one because I heard that this had a full cast, and I have not listened to an audiobook with a full cast, and that was a treat. That was awesome to hear all of the different actors voicing their parts. Like, amazing. If budgets allow, can we do more of that instead of having to listen to women doing really not great men's voices and vice versa? I would love a full cast. I think it's brilliant. The book itself is about a band in the 70s. Basically, the guy in the band has a wife and kid, and he is pining for the female singer in the band, who's also pining for him, and they just pine for each other through their songs because they can't be together. It would destroy a family, but they're just star-crossed lovers. So the story itself didn't do anything for me. This is a 3 stars. This is the lowest rating Taylor Jenkins Reid book I have read. I just didn't care about him. I'm like, oh, boo-hoo. You've got chemistry, but yeah, the guy's got a wife and child, he's got responsibilities. Find someone else. Like, I don't have any sympathy for them constantly toying with the flirtation of will they, won't they? It's like, don't do it. Or if you're really that pull to each other, then okay, leave your wife and kid, but like, make a decision, you know? I just said something that totally spoiled the book, so I had to backtrack that. Hopefully I delete it. Chanel, please delete it. It was okay. Like I said, I love the audiobook experience. If I wasn't listening to the audiobook, I probably wouldn't have persevered. I did like the format of it being through an interview, so you were just constantly just hearing from each person's perspective on scenes, so that was interesting. It was different. I'm not one for the music scene. I don't really care about it, and I find it a little bit cringy, like the writing of the songs and the lyrics. It's supposed to be like poignant and deep, but it was just, those lyrics are okay, I guess. This is a TV show now. That's why I decided to pick up the audiobook, because I'm not going to watch the TV show. I don't care for relationship drama, and basically this is what this book mostly is. I guess the people are trying to find themselves, but it's mostly about their relationship with each other, let's be real, rather than their own personal self-development. And the dude's self-development comes mostly from the wife pushing him to deal with his shit, not really from his own volition, even though he says it's from his volition. It's like, no, she pretty much guided you to getting help and made sure it happened. She was going to make sure you didn't fail, and that's what she did. So yeah, it was okay. There was no real like twists. Sometimes her books have twists and stuff. There wasn't really any like, oh my God, twist in this. Like, it was just straight, you know, their relationship throughout their career together, and then what happens at the end. So yeah, that's a 3-star. And then I read The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell. And this is basically the Great British Bake Off with some murders thrown in as well. This is a 3 stars for me. It would have been 3.5, but there were 7 POVs. That's just way too many POVs for me to read through. It's too much. But you do have 6 contestants. You've got the host of the show, Betsy, the obviously crew that's filming the show at Betsy's Manor House. So if you like baking shows, you probably really enjoy this. It's a cozy mystery thriller. There's nothing really too scary about it. The violence is sort of like off screen, so that's great because I don't do well with homicide in contemporary books. So that was fine. I did enjoy it. It was entertaining. The twists and plots weren't like amazing or mind-blowing. It's like, yeah, I can see why that happened and totally call that one. But I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. It got me really hungry. The descriptions of all of like the treats that they were baking has definitely inspired me now to probably bake a cake on the weekend. So that's great. If you like cozy murder mysteries and you like food shows, this book is for you. I highly recommend. Then I read A Spindle Splintered by Alix E. Harrow. This is basically a modern retelling of Sleeping Beauty with a sapphic spin set in a multiverse. So I really liked it. I've given this 4 stars. The main character, Zinnia, she has like Buffy vibes to me. There was definitely a Scooby Gang feel in this book. There's a lot of pop culture references to film, TV, media, life in general. I liked it. It felt real. Like this was someone from our world who was going through this. So basically Zinnia has a condition that is terminal. She has a life expectancy of around 21 years and she's just had her 21st birthday. This actually really got me in the feels. I have children, and to have a child being told you'll be lucky if they make it to 21, that is so harrowing. But at the same time, Zinnia was referencing how she just felt suffocated by the weight of her parents' love for her, and my heart broke for them all to be going through it. Life is precious, and it just as a reminder of really every day you wake up is a gift, dude. You don't know how much time you've got. But yeah, in this, she had a clock that she was pretty much racing against, and it's sort of like, how do you live your life knowing that you're going to die at this age and how you're going to spend it? So Zinnia, because of her condition, really resonated with the fairy tale Sleeping Beauty. Basically, she thought, wouldn't it be better to sleep than to die? You know? And she collects all of these fairy tales. She has a degree in like folk tales. And on her 21st birthday, her bestie, sort of also former crush, ends up getting her a spinning wheel. And she pricks her finger and wakes up in an alternate Sleeping Beauty retelling. The story sort of goes from there, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, she's a modern lass who finds herself in these fairy tales of Sleeping Beauty, all of the different iterations of it, and sort of uncovering the truth in these stories and the theme. I'm just going to read this one little part. Unless we change them, unless we grab our narratives by the ear and drag them kicking and screaming toward better endings, maybe the universe doesn't naturally bend toward justice either. Maybe it's only the weight of hands and hearts pulling it true, inch by stubborn inch. The writing was great. I really enjoyed this book. It's a short book. I think it's 100 pages. And it sort of just gets straight into it, which I love. Like, let's not faff about. Let's just get into this and do it. And I loved it. So the writing was great. The characters, I love them. There was lots of queer rap in this. The plot was cute. The other themes of obviously dealing with a terminal illness were very big and poignant. There's a lot of shade thrown at Pfizer. So I really liked this book, and I found it fun, and I found it tender and heartbreaking, and yet at the same time the ending was not expected, but I'm really happy about it. I think this continues as a series, and it's definitely something that I will continue. I really liked this modern take on the fairy tales, and would like to see what this author puts out next. I'm so happy because I'm going to be honest with you, this entire month of April has been really not great. I found a lot of books to be around 3 stars, and this is the first 4-star I think I've read this month. This entire month, the only 4-star. I was so happy to end this week on that book. It was just really unexpected, and I loved it. So I'm excited to read more. That was everything that I read this week. I think I've also been listening to the Sunbearer Trials, but I'm only a quarter of the way in to that book, so I'll talk about that one in my next week's vlog. Yeah, I'm excited to also just try some different things with my vlogs, film some different ways, and pick up some hopefully better books for May, April. A lot of books read, not many of them that I loved. Just when you finally get one you do like, you're like, oh, my heart isn't dead. I do actually like things. Sometimes I think, am I just a really hard bitch to please? But then it's like, oh no, there are books that just tickle my fancy, but there's just not many. I'm a bit more pickier, I think, than most people, but there are books out there that I really love. So I look forward to talking to you about those, and I hope that you have a gorgeous morning, afternoon, or evening, and as always, stay wild, star child.